Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to dive into bind mounts in Docker. If you have ever wondered how to link a folder on your machine to a folder inside a Docker container, you are in the right place. I'll walk you through it step by step, and by the end of this video, you'll have a solid understanding of how bind mounts work, including some cool use cases like read-only mounts. Alright, let's get started by launching an Ubuntu container with a bind mount. A bind mount lets you map a folder from your local machine to a folder inside your Docker container, so any changes in one will be reflected in the other. Let me show you the command to create this bind mount. Let's break down this command quickly. The -it flag runs the container in interactive mode, allowing us to open a terminal. This -- name flag gives our container a name of Ubuntu -container. This -v flag is the bind mount that maps a folder on our host machine to a folder inside the container. So I will be mapping the /home directory in the Ubuntu container I will create to this folder on my local machine. So just to quickly show you, this is the folder that I'll be mounting, and these are the files within the folder. Let's go ahead and run this command. So as you should know, if the image is not locally on your device, it will download it. Then it will create a container based off of that image. Now that we're inside the container, let's head over to the host machine to create a file in the folder we mapped to this container. Watch what happens. First, I will navigate to the home directory, as that is the directory that we binded. We can already see that the files on my local device are already there in the Ubuntu container. Let's create a new file and see what happens. As you can see, the file 4.txt is right there inside the container. Now let's try the opposite. Let's create a file inside the container and see it appear on the host machine. Sure enough, there's our file. The two-way stream between the host and container is working perfectly. We can even read inside the file to demonstrate that they are identical. So I edited the file now on my host machine. And we can now look into 5.txt in the container. And we can see some text is there. Alright, so what happens if we remove the container? Do the files disappear from our host machine? Let's find out. We can see docker ps-a to see our container running, Ubuntu container. Let's remove the container. First, we will use the docker stop command to stop the container. Now we can remove the container. So if we use docker ps-a, nothing's running, but as you can see, the files on the host are still there. Since the files live on your local file system, they persist even if the container is gone. This is great for keeping the data outside of the container lifecycle. Now let's take this a step further. What if we want to make the bind mount read-only? This could be useful if you want the container to access files but not modify them. Here is how we will do it. We'll create a new container with a read-only bind mount using the :ro flag, like this. Let's go ahead and run this command. to make our new container. Let us navigate into the home directory, as that's what we mapped. So once again, when we make a file on our host machine, it will show up once again, when we make a file on our host machine, it will show up in the directory. So I'll make another file. There is 7 which I just made, but if we try and make a new file, let's see what happens. As expected, we get a permission error, read-only file system. So that's a quick look at Docker bind mounts. We have seen how they allow you to share files between your host and your container, and even restrict write access with read-only mounts. This feature is incredibly useful for local development, persisting data, or sharing configuration files. To recap, bind mounts let you sync folders between your host and container. Changes made in one location show up in the other. Files persist on the host even after the container is removed, and you can set a bind mount to be read-only for added security. I hope you found this demonstration helpful. If you did, don't forget to like the video and subscribe. See you in the next video. Thank you.